Hi, it's me again. One of the things that I wanted to mention in the previous video that I missed was the fact that, or relating a little bit to the observation exercise that we're asking you to do. Just to give you a little bit of context, I'm right now in the Miami Trails and Natural Areas, which is part of the Miami University system here in Oxford, Ohio. And just to think a little bit of how this scale and perspective can really influence the way that we see our community, right? So this is a place that I come when I want to connect with nature. I'm sure all of you have a place like this in your communities, which I'm really excited to hear about. But just to give you an idea of kind of like those perspectives that we think, if you think about like, like the small scale, you can think of this kind of like 10 by 10. There's only a few species here that we can see with our eyes, some pine cones, some nettles. I'm sure if I start digging into here, there's going to be more insects, more critters, and the amount of bacteria and biodiversity that we can find in the soil. When I step a little bit outside, I start seeing other things, right? I see here a little species interaction of this cute little mushroom with a pine cone. So it gets me thinking also how these different species are interconnected with each other. Think about the different life cycles that different species have. When you start getting into a broader perspective, you start again seeing more interactions. You look up from a kind of like broader scale. You have those pine trees over there. You have here like a tree fall that it's creating a little bit of a clearing, and also how that also gives the opportunity for life for other species. But then when I start thinking about, if I start looking from a broader perspective, this natural areas is kind of like adjacent or kind of like on the outskirts of a little bit of the city of Oxford. So it's also thinking how this is offering an opportunity for community members like me to come and use this for recreation, for connecting with nature, but also how this area hosts a bunch of species that kind of like coexist with us in that community. We are currently, for example, having a lot of issues with deer, right? So a lot of deer are encroaching, or not encroaching, but there's a lot of like human deer interactions, deer coming, eating into the community gardens or personal people's gardens in their backyards. Also, deer can also bring a lot of different pests, right? Ticks that can also influence human health. So again, understanding how the ecological system can influence our social system of humans, and how we can also think about what are some ways of, for example, controlling that deer population growth. Here in Oxford, they are looking into different alternatives, right? Some people are looking into deer hunting seasons, also understanding how that can be, how that has to be approved by the city of Oxford, how different community members are coming together into kind of like making those decisions, what that implies for the different deer population, what that implies for different plant species that are being affected negatively by the increase of deer in these areas, right? So really thinking about those ecological dynamics, how it influences a larger scale, this ecological space, but also how humans are also part of that ecological space that can influence the social ecological systems, right? So this is kind of what we want you guys to get started thinking for your communities, understanding how these social and ecological systems are interconnected with each other, and really understanding this from a broader scale. And when I say talk about scale, it's really important to think about kind of like, what is that geographical space that we're thinking about, right? Am I focusing just on this natural trail system, right? That's going to limit the amount of, for example, humans that live around the area. When I look at it at a bigger scale, I can think about the city of Oxford, right? That is also, those decision-making processes in Oxford might also influence the way that these natural trail systems are being influenced and affected, right? If we also start thinking from a larger scale, let's think from the Ohio state system, right? Or let's say the county, right? What are the legal aspects, the norms of the county when it comes to nature areas and how people are interacting with species, right? And then you can move it even farther to Ohio, the region, the Midwest, the US, and so on. So when you're thinking about scale for your communities, and I know this is a very initial exercise, but as you move forward in the course, that idea of scale, keep revisiting it. Keep thinking about how scale can influence the way that we perceive or think about our communities. If we really look into, a very narrow setting, you can look into a lot of detail, right? But you're missing kind of like that broader picture, right? If you go into the broader picture, you can see a lot of general patterns, but you might be missing a lot of little details. So understanding how scale is going to influence the way that you perceive your communities, it's a really important point for this course. We'll be discussing more about that later. But yeah, I just wanted to share kind of like a little bit about my observational activity here in the Miami natural areas, and show you a little bit of one of my favorite parts of Oxford. Bye.